Last night while I was streaming Euro Truck on the gaming channel, I couldn't help but notice people in my chat talking about a vote that took place in Parliament. I had thought it was Hilary Benn's little bill. Maybe that'll crop up soon enough. I have a sneaky feeling it's now going to be recommended. Of course, the Speaker still has to choose it, but I'm sure if they throw it at him enough times, he'll notice. No, last night the vote was to seize control of Parliament. MPs have voted 328 to 301 to do this. What has happened is a bunch of Tory, let's call them rebels, and opposition MPs object to no deal. The problem is, there is no version of a deal. It took 2 years to get the version of the deal we even got in the first place. They believe in a few options. One is an extension until January 2020, even though the EU have already said they won't renegotiate the deal. Another is a second referendum, which they can't do, because to do so would be career suicide. For people who are so interested in themselves, it's quite impressive how willing they are to sacrifice themselves and commit the ultimate Sudoku. The third and final one is revocation of Article 50. Now we should quickly go through some of this, because it is quite important. MPs claim to oppose no deal, but by taking control, they are guaranteeing no deal happens, which is somewhat ironic. Jeremy Corbyn wants no deal taken off the table before he'll agree to a general election. However, not so long ago, he was begging for a general election without preconditions, much like he was willing to sit down with the Prime Minister without preconditions, but now these are coming up. He is trying to manufacture some. The European courts would be the only place where no deal could be removed from the table because it is in the article, the agreement we all signed up to in the first place when we became members of the EU. Therefore, we must respect their rules, their laws. In this case, if there is no deal, you have no deal, which means whether you like it or not, the only place you could actually get this removed or legislated would be under EU law. You don't get to cherry pick what parts of the EU law to abide, all the while unironically wanting to also cherry pick what aspects of membership we would like to keep. It is a tad consistent, I'll admit that, to be hypocritical beyond belief. So what happens now is that MPs have taken control of the agenda, which allows them to bring a bill which would now request a delay on Brexit, which was Hilary Benn's bill from yesterday that we then looked at and agreed upon being absolute heresy. The heresy of it being they are all willing to again commit Sudoku. Yesterday, when the Prime Minister was giving a little statement, the Prime Minister lost his majority because one of his MPs decided, I'm now going to join the Liberal Democrats. I'm starting to understand why more and more people believe that an MP that switches parties, when the people voted for the party and the person, should actually resubmit themselves for a by-election. I don't personally think he should. In hindsight, I'm more than willing to accept he was voted in, therefore he can stay in his job. Boris Johnson has said that if MPs do force through the delay, if they do, he will call for a general election. He'll table a motion for it. Now there's a bit of a thing to this. If they delay Brexit, this will cause a lot of problems. But it's all predicated on an assumption, and it's quite a big one. You see, the MPs haven't given this one much thought. The bill that was mentioned yesterday requests an extension. The assumption is that the EU will give us an extension, which they don't have to do. In fact, Tusk, Barnier and, who's the other one, Juncker? Are you still there or is Ursula in yet? They can just say, no. In fact, you can take all your bills and shove them up your bottoms. The Prime Minister would have to table a motion for this general election, which will more than likely be voted down, which is again ironic considering Labour, or the leader of the Labour Party, has been begging for a general election. But of course, now it suits him, tactics and everything are important. But that's not the entire story. There are a number of opinion polls that have done their rounds that would indicate that the Labour Party would actually lose quite badly, and Boris would end up with a majority of over 20 seats, meaning he would have a fully functional majority in Parliament. Now yes, his party are divided on Brexit, but that's easily rectified, with a number of people guaranteeing they're going to be deselected, or have a candidate run for the party against them, a sitting MP, starting by having their whip removed. Now, I don't support any of that. I think it's petty. But I also think it's equally petty for people to continually say, Churchill was right. You don't do things for your constituencies. No. You do it in the national interest. I fully understand this quote, by the way, Mr. Clark. However, you were voted in by your constituency. Those are the people you represent. If your constituency voted resoundingly for Brexit and you were doing everything to stymie it, so basically not you, Mr. Clark, then you are guaranteeing you're going to lose your job while supposedly doing something totally selfless that looks on the face of it to be utterly selfish. I don't take issue with Commons seizing control of the agenda, because that's just going to make amazing content for me, honestly. I've got PMQs tonight. I didn't know that was on. That's going to be fun. Boris v Corbyn? Oh yeah. With all the talk of Corbyn calling for a general election in the last several PMQs we did with Theresa May, it'll be very funny to see how fewer times he mentions it against Boris. At this present moment, Liberal Democrats have grown because of Brexit. SNP, no one cares. Labour, though, are in disarray as well. People are saying you're revived and united. You're really not. You are really not. The only reason your party seemed moderately on your side, Mr. Corbyn, is because you said you would consider backing a second referendum, or remain. Sorry, with the option of remain. The UK must leave the EU on the 31st of October. We should have left months ago. By continuing to delay, you reinforce the belief that you guys, while claiming to do something for all of us, are only doing something for yourselves. Because you are too scared to do the one thing that you could do if we left. And that was make a concerted effort to do something good for the country. I saw others on Twitter indicating that WTO rules didn't work out so well for North Korea, but we're not North Korea and we're not killing our people. The only people causing suffering are those who are willing to risk it by forcing no deal, as opposed to those who are willing to prepare for it and do everything to make sure we get the best out of it. The supposed optimists are actually the cynics, and the supposed cynics are actually the optimists. How pathetic is that? I support WTO rules, I support no deal now. I am absolutely done with the idea of getting a deal through Parliament. I can't wait for the next general election. If it happens this year, oh my God, you're going to see Nigel Farage in the Commons, surrounded by a massive number of MPs. And he'll do it because it's funny. Which it will be. Because I'm almost certain him and Boris could strike up a deal to get a majority in Parliament. Will it be worth it then, Mr. Grieve? I didn't think it was personally. But what do I know? I'm just the lowly peasant that you represent. And you think you know better than me. Based on what you've been doing, I have to press X to doubt.